Hey everybody, it's Strict9 with Strict9 GP, and here we go with the new version of Draft Day Sports College Basketball 2021. So I've got the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders playthrough loaded up. It's going to be my fourth season with the team, coming off a really good showing. We finished the regular season as the champs in the Conference USA Conference, lost out in the conference tournament, but went to the NIT and actually made it to the regional final of the NIT. So I had a good showing. I just jumped right in. I'm not doing any kind of first look with this 2021 version. I figured, you'll get to see some of the features as I'm playing through it if you're interested. I'm really liking a lot of the additions that have been made to the game. First thing you're going to notice right off the bat here is the dashboard is a little bit different, and some of these buttons have changed. I mean, there's a line of new menus here at the top, and so it might take you a little while to get used to where everything is, but the dashboard shows like a player card, which is kind of cool. You see their scholarship status, their attitude status here on the top. You see their star ratings. I've got it filtered by position, so point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center. I think you can also do by last name. Position makes a little bit more sense to me. But I'm liking that, and I'm also liking some other things like with scheduling. Like if you go to the schedule, you actually get to see a little bit more details, especially after you start playing through the games. You'll see the results and high scores and high performers, and that'll stay there for the rest of the year if you want to kind of look at that and see who's streaky or not at a glance. That's kind of cool. When you're playing games from the Play Sim screen, it gives you your upcoming games, which is really cool. But we're going to get into some playing some games. I'm starting out right at the beginning. We're going to go through as much of the non-conference schedule as I can get through. But let's give a little bit of recap, and I want to go over the recruiting, which has been, I think, a lot better this year. But what it comes down to, I think, is at the end of last episode, we improved our prestige quite a bit. We're even a little bit more higher prestige than the conference. I wish that wasn't the case, because I think having a low conference prestige is going to hurt us a little bit in recruiting. But we had such a good year. I was finally able to petition the AD for some budget and other requests, and what I went with was facilities. So we improved from C to B in facilities. I think that's going to help us with recruiting. Looks like it has. I was able to pitch some of these guys in recruiting on facilities, and I think it made a difference. So the goal this year is to, and our office is up here now, but the goal this year is almost like a mirror of last year. The only thing is they want us to win the conference tournament. So I don't know. I when we went through the conference tournament last year, last season, that was one of the things I was mentioning. There's a lot of upsets in those conference tournaments. Every time I played them, you can come in as a high seed and get knocked out to a low seed that first round. It's really competitive, and that's why I think conference prestige is really key, and team prestige is key, because you're gonna be able, if you have a good record like we did last year, that might pull you into that bubble watch and maybe get you an open invite to the NCAA tournament. But it's a tough road when you're in a tournament or a conference where you're gonna have to win the conference tournament to make the NCAA tournament. So we're just gonna have to hope that we have a good season. I think maybe we can do 2 or 3 even of these 4, and I would be really happy. And I hope that it would help us with prestige, maybe just a little bit. I would like to get our prestige somewhere in the range of 50 and above, and hopefully start winning some postseason games and getting that conference prestige up, if that's how that works. I'm surprised that our conference prestige may have went down a little bit, because we were at 2.5 at one point. because Western Kentucky, for instance, they made it to the finals, I think, or whatever tournament they were in postseason. So I don't know. We had a good showing, but it just didn't seem to matter. Another thing on the insights, which is not going to really show too much until we get into the game, but new thing this year, instead of RPI, we've got this net quadrants, and this is going to determine how things like the bubble watch and how you're ranked. It's going to determine those things, especially big for the NCAA tournament, NIT tournament. So we'll look at this as the season progresses, but the big thing is like it's matched or it's like broken into 4 quadrants. Away games mean a little bit more than home in terms of the points you're going to get for a win, and of course the level of the competition is going to mean quite a bit. That's going to help hurt us a little bit because once again, I'm just still I'm in that mode. I want to build wins and I want to build the team up a little bit before we start playing really good quality competition in the non-conference. So I'm giving us one more year at an easy schedule, and we'll look at that when we start simming games. We have maybe 2 or 3 higher quality matchups. We open up with a tough game, but I'm just wanting to get one more season with a lot of wins. I want that to, hopefully help us when it goes to the budget. Maybe next year we can ask for an increase in budget if we have another good season and improve our prestige. That's what I'm hoping for. But let's jump into recruiting. I'll tell you right now, I've got letters of intent from all 4 of the scholarships I had available. And I went for a mix. I really wanted to get a couple of power forwards, but one of these, I think it was a shooting guard, came in there, looked pretty good, and I just decided to go there and maybe get some balance. One of the things that recruiting from last year had some surprises, and let me bounce back and look at that first. So we got this guy as a center, and I don't know if this is controversial or not. You can give me some feedback. He's a young freshman. He came in at 17. This guy has great upside. He's already a 3-star potential, 3-star current with 4.5 potential. But he was wanting to start. That was his thing. He expected starter minutes. So I decided to redshirt the guy. I don't know how good a choice that'll wind up being, but I really like the idea of getting this guy 4 years, and it's he was not going to get playing time between these two, Eschmeyer Senior, Brown, and Junior. Those guys know our schemes, our offense is way better than this guy's going to do as a freshman. So I didn't want to put him on the bench and run the risk of him transferring out, but I don't know. I haven't had too much experience with red shirts. Is that going to be a consideration for this guy? Is he going to potentially transfer out after I've redshirted him? I don't know. You may tell me what you think about it in the comments. But that was a good recruit. As for the rest, our recruiting was something like 140 something. That was how it ranked. Wasn't too good from last season. Desmond was a bust. I think Wilcox was kind of a bust. Hopefully, they'll get some playing time here and there and may improve. But we did pick up a transfer, a shooting guard. We're going to be stacked at shooting guard next year because we got a good recruit. Adam Hansen, first year transfer in from Arkansas. I'm interested how this guy plays. Good outside shooting. He's going to get the start there at shooting guard, but that's one of the reasons I wanted to go with an easier schedule, because this is, again, I think this could be even a transition year. We might be competitive, hopefully get close to a winning record, if not above, but I don't know that we're going to be good enough to win that tournament. Conference tournament, don't know, but I doubt if we'll finish top of the standings again in the conference. But we got some good rated players here. Johnson's still a 4-star point guard. He's a good scoring point guard. I'm hoping he improves with assist and leading the team this year. Landrum, who's been on the bench almost his whole time here, his ratings look good at power forward. I think we got 2 pretty solid centers. I debated going with Brown in the starting role there at center, but finally just went with Eschmeyer. I mean, he's been pretty consistent as well. Give Brown a little bit more time off the bench. Um, Vidal Baxter got a lot of playing time as a freshman. I'm going to give him that starting small forward job. I think he's got good rebounding and scoring ability, so I think he might be a decent player. So it's possible we're a really competitive team in the conference, but we'll just have to see. Now, like I was saying, I wanted to get a little bit into recruiting. Back to the recruit class, you'll see we're 3-star and above. Some of these guys, like Chris Walker, power forward, I really went with this guy because he was a top 5, I think. Yeah, top 5 in the Memphis Hoop Summit. A good inside shooter, good rebounder, good defender, decent, not great size for a power forward, but I think I've had some success with those kind of guys in the past. So I liked him. I think Murdoch, was he one of the top? I don't know if he was top, but boy, he's got some good outside shooting and athleticism ability. Troy Dexler, I didn't necessarily need a small forward, but this guy is one of the better average rating guys I've ever seen. He was in the top 25 at the Memphis Hoop Summit. He's really doesn't have any downside. He's got decent size. He might be a guy as a freshman you could put in at small forward and power forward backing up. I like this guy's look. I mean, he might be a surprise if he holds his ratings. And then Muhammad as a point guard, another good shooting point guard. I think we'll need depth at that position next year. He's coming in regionally as right now the 5th rated point guard, and he's out of Kentucky. So I think that was a good pickup. I didn't expect to have all of the signings, or at least all the verbals, when I started the season. I wanted to go over some of the recruiting because there have been some changes in how recruiting is handled. One of the things you have this year you didn't in the past was you have this ability to text recruit, so you can text a recruit and say, hey, I want to tell you about our school. You can pitch him on things that are important to him, like facilities. And another thing that I found was key as I went through this, if you hit the help button and you go team needs and info down here, it gives you a glance at what your roster is going to look like next year. So anyone in gray is a senior. So I could tell right away that we needed help with power forward, and I still think that one pickup, even though he's a top 5 player, is he going to be able to start as a freshman? That's maybe debatable, but I think this is pretty handy. It's something I don't think was in previous versions, but I really like that. And in general, for sure, scouting or recruiting was better this year. And we even left some guys out there that I'm probably going to regret, like Alex Williams, junior college transfer. I'm really hesitant on junior college transfers, but this guy, he really liked us eventually, and he was coming in highly rated, 3rd regionally at power forward. But I'm still happy with what we got in recruiting, so I'm hoping that'll translate into next season and beyond. So next episodes, probably when we get into next year, maybe I'll look at recruiting a little bit more in depth if that's something you guys are interested in. But this year, like I say, it went smoother than I thought, and just filled up those slots sooner than I was expecting. I'll look at the depth chart, and then we'll get to playing some games. That's the one thing that I spend a lot of time on. It may not show because it's kind of all over the place, but I want to give Johnson as much time as I can because he's the best rated player. He's very durable. I kind of already mentioned who we're starting with, but our bench is really going to be poor. I would be willing to bet that most of the games that we scout, you're going to see that we're at a disadvantage on the bench. Outside of Brown and maybe Jack, who's a senior point guard, and he's been here long enough. He knows the system that he might be able to contribute off the bench. Um, I really think we're struggling. Peskine as a backup power forward, he's another guy who had some decent potential, but even with almost 12 minutes last year, just didn't see a whole lot of uptick in his ratings. I'm trying to get some of these underclassmen more playing time as well, even though I don't think unless their ratings just improved by a lot, I don't think they're ever going to develop into starters. Like Desmond, that freshman that I recruited, it's the first time I've ever seen this, but he's showing his no stars for his current ratings, and he's ones in a lot of things. It's another thing that I also wanted to mention too. I played a test version, went through and played as Austin P, my old team, went through a season or so with them just to see how this new version worked. You can actually change the ratings. It's something new in this version. You have the 1 to 10 scale, which I have used previously, but you could also go on a 100 rated scale, and I was using that with Austin P and kind of liked it. But unfortunately, you can't change that. It's something that you set when you set up your association. So when I imported that league in, it kept the old 10-point scale, and as far as I know, I haven't seen a way to change that. If you guys know, you might can put that in the comments. I kind of liked that 100 scale. The more I played with that test run and got used to it. So that's it for setup. Let's look at what we got going on. We're opening up in a NIT preseason tournament. It's going to be a tough matchup. Number 12 Duke. That's probably going to be by far the toughest game in our non-conference schedule, unless some of those teams are more advanced than I'm thinking. So let's see. It's close, 80 to 73, but I kind of expected that. A couple things to look at right away. So Hansen, leading scorer, 7 of 13, and field goals really good, 19 points. Price off the bench, who I've been playing, I think, as a shooting guard, even though he's a small forward because of his outside shooting. He had a pretty decent game off the bench. Brown didn't get much play time. Eschmeyer, he was kind of handled. I'm sure they got almost a 5-star center there at Duke. Baxter, pretty good game, his first ever start with us. I feel pretty good about him at small forward. Hopefully he'll turn out okay. We had a good free throw shooting performance with close and rebounds, but as I've mentioned time and time again, turnovers, that's huge. I really wish Johnson didn't have that liability, because otherwise this guy's almost a perfect player for this team in conference. So that gives us our first loss. We got Texas A&M CC at home. We got a lot of homes this time, or a lot of home games this non-conference schedule. Way more than last year, which in some ways I kind of like that. And you could always change the scheduling, but I just, I didn't want to tamper with it too much. Last year we played, I think, out of the 12 games we wound up having on that non-conference schedule, I think we went with like 7 or maybe even 8, if you consider that we had 2 in a tournament on the road and won like 4 or 5 of them. So I think it's important to start winning on the road, but I just, like I say, I just went with what we had. So next game coming up in a while, it's going to be another week, so we don't have another game for a while. I just want to get us to a good spot. I think with the youth still on this team, I mean, we got Johnson at point guard, but that Baxter at small forward. Both those guys, I think, are sophomores. Power forward, we're going to be in trouble. Center, we still got um, Brown back next year, and then unless, like I say, unless there's something I'm not realizing about red shirts and the guy transfers out, Dunkley, I think his name is, he's going to be in at center. Um, Shooting guard, I think we're really looking good at if this Hansen turns out to be a good player, and he was a transfer in from. And man, I see this every once in a while. You'll see some of the teams come up with no uniforms, and that's probably something you just have to go in and edit. Maybe the import didn't come in the way it should have. So a lot of things going on. Oh, letters of intent. So we got all four signed the letters of intent. Scouting reports. Last year we were scouted to win a lot of games. I mean, like they got us winning against Bradley, which I think is going to be a pretty good matchup. We're on the road against them. I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I don't know. I wouldn't guarantee us a win there. And then Portland State is going to be a home game. We're favored in that one. But looking at the recruit class again, man, I'm pretty happy with that. Sometimes these will fluctuate. So, especially when you're early in the season, sometimes it can change. One thing to note, like I said, we got another Kentucky recruit, but we also got someone from Arkansas. That's something that's new to this version. You can actually build a pipeline. So I'm interested in seeing how that works. If we can maybe reach out to some of these other states in the region, that'd be really nice. So let's get to our next game here. We should have two games this week. And Texas A&M CC are 2-1 so far. So yeah, I keep saying that as it flashes through. Some of these teams don't have uniforms. Now I don't know how you would edit that. I think you may even have. I think you might have to go into commissioner mode to make that kind of change to a team. Again, if you guys know or have had this happen to you, let me know. I remember playing this team. I think as when I was with Austin P, Texas AMC. They're not a pushover. Yeah, so some of the logos just didn't update. I may have to check if there's an update to the mod that I'm using. It's not that big a deal if it's just some of the minor conferences, honestly. But I'd still, I like having all the things working right. So let's go to this game. They beat us 74-61. That's what I'm telling you. This is it seems like they always play well. Don't know why. Man, that's disappointing. I mean, that's a home loss. We could be in trouble this year. That's why I wanted to go with what I went for, a pushover schedule, but it may not be as pushover as I'm thinking. Hansen had a terrible shooting game. So did Johnson. We were below 40%. We were out rebounded. The only thing positive here was turnovers, but everything else was so upside down for us. I guess Hansen had 13 points, but man, that's not much positives here. Brown hasn't looked great his first two games with us. So we need to start turning it around. The one thing that we can't afford is a losing record coming out of this non-conference. I mean, 11 games. Gosh, I would even think we need to have 6-7 wins would be really good. Man, that is disappointing. It's one of the things you never know until you start playing. You just never know the kind of team you have, which is, good and bad. But man, I was just looking at some of those teams coming through. Kansas City, they've been in the game before, so I'm just not sure why they don't have. What happened that those didn't load. Now I know one of the things that had to happen, and this is another away game. One of the things that did happen with this year, you have a few new teams coming over, and we finally get a win. In the conference, I think there was not in the conference, but I think in the all of basketball there was some conference shakeups and movement here and there, and then 4 new teams I think were added. So that could be what's going on here. I'll take a road win, so I'm not going to really be too disappointed. But I do notice that we lost the second half. Shooting was good in this one, almost 60%. Really big from 3-pointers. 28 points from Johnson. Great game, too. 7 rebounds. Turnovers not too out of control. Landrum had a good game, a double-double. 10 rebounds, 10 points. Eschmeyer, 9 rebounds. Jack has been surprising me, too. I mean, this guy's averaging almost 10 points a game. So he could be someone. I've got him in the depth chart pretty low, but he got a lot of time in this one just because our bench is pretty thin. He might be somebody to put in there at shooting guard occasionally. But this was a close game for both sides if I'm looking at it. I mean, we definitely out-rebounded them. We lost the turnover battle, but they shot well too, so our defense might be struggling early. I don't really hope that's the case. We got 2 pretty tough games coming up. I mean, we got Bradley on the road, and then we got South Alabama, who's not too bad at home. Again, I do like having that up here. It was something where you'd always have to bounce back to your dashboard to kind of look at the schedule. I like having it in this position there at the top of the screen. So we're playing American, and they're from the Patriot League. We're scouted to beat them pretty easily, but like I said, I don't know if that matters too much. South Alabama, we're scheduled or scouted to beat them, but at least that's a home win. And we got Portland State up next. We can't afford to, definitely can't afford to lose too many of these early games. We'll have an 18-game conference schedule as we always do, so depends on how the rest of that conference is looking. I don't want to go in there. I always feel like if your goal is to finish with 9 or finish 500 or better in the conference, you got a good chance at having a decent record when it's all said and done. But you got to get through the non-conference schedule with some. You got to rack up the wins. And that was a big win, but again, just not a very strong competition. We beat them by 22. 84 points, and it looks like another good shooting performance. We didn't go to the line a lot, but we shot 90%. Johnson, player of the game, good game from him and Hansen. Hansen now 15 points. He's a sophomore. The only downside to this guy is really his disruptive force, and he's injury prone, so 2 downsides. But he could be the best shooting guard we've had since I've been with this MTSU team. Baxter, another good game. Landrum, good game. I think he's probably going to be comparable to the I think it was Craig, the power forward who started the first 3 seasons I was here. I think they're really similar in ratings. Landrum might actually turn out to have better numbers over a full season as a starter. Brown finally did what he usually does off the bench, 16 points. I think that's probably the way to go since Eschmeyer's been the starter now for 3 seasons. Just let these guys kind of balance it out a little bit, and hopefully we get the performance that we got from them last year. So other things to note, we definitely out-rebounded them, but it was close in turnovers, close enough that it didn't really play into the game. So that puts us back to 500. We have, of the remaining schedule, this could be the toughest game left coming up, and that's Bradley at home or on the road. They're a pretty decent basketball team from a good conference. Um, so we'll probably have a tough test there. If we won that one, that would be a good bounce back from what we've been playing like so far. That was one of the things last year was just obvious to me that we were a better team when we started winning on the road, and we didn't do it. So 77-69. This is about where we were a few seasons ago so far. I'm hoping that's not what I'm looking at. So Bradley, definitely a better shooting performance. Defense might be struggling with his team. We have way more turnovers. A good free throw performance. Johnson, another good game from him points wise. But we were handled pretty well in this one. Surprisingly, Wilcox, a freshman recruit who, was one of the few freshman recruits outside of that center I'm redshirting who had any kind of upside. And I kept those guys over him really because of the depth issues, but I don't expect that guy to play much of a factor in this game. We do have some disruption issues going on already. I noticed that little pop-up. I'll have to take a look at that. It's weird because we had more disruptive force type players on the team last year. We didn't have a single incident. I tried to weed those guys out, although I did pick up that transfer at Hansen who does have a disruptive force. So it may be that that's going to be an issue now. I hope it's post-game. Wilcox, so we got a pretty tough Gardner-Webb team, to be honest. They're top 100. I think that could be a tough one. But let's see if I can address this, because Wilcox being a freshman, and we can't afford to get Landrum upset for sure. Wilcox, he really needs to probably watch his mouth. I don't know that I can call him here. I'm going to text him about his attitude, and no relationship change, but at least he acknowledges it. So hopefully that'll be good. Moving along, I'm hoping we're 5 games in. I'm hoping we get most of these 11 games out of the way. And we'll take a look at standings and things like that before we move on. This is going to be a different season, though, already than last one. I'm thinking, if those recruits turn out to be as good as they're looking early, just in terms of the potential and stuff anyway. But that might be one of those things where we're going to be in a transition year this year, maybe for a couple seasons until we get back. That's something I've noticed too. I think, this game has the option you can run it in Windows 8 compatibility mode, and I think it fixes some of those issues. But sometimes the menus will drop, I've noticed. So this is a tough test. Thankfully, we get past him. Good win at home. Keith Brown, 17 points. That's what I'm expecting. And I'm okay with that. Him coming off the bench, playing like that. His attitude's still good. I don't think it's really hurting anything right now. So we had finally a good defensive showing. They had just 40% shooting. We out-rebounded them by a lot, and we won the turnover battle. We shot again over 50%. Pretty decent look from Hansen, but this was a bench win. They had some probably bigger depth issues than we did, but look at that bench play. Brown especially, 17 points. I expect him to probably come away with more points than Eschmeyer, and it might, it might be something where I have to adjust the depth chart and give him more minutes, so that it's not this imbalance where it's 24-15. Landrum, no points. No, he had points. It was zero. But he's giving us some rebounds. I'm liking that. Hanson's still staying scoring, and look at Johnson with his 9 assists. He's at 5+ a game right now. Last year he was at 3. That'd be cool if he improved in that department. Jack again. This guy's looking good. He might be the unsung player of the year if he keeps that up, because we do need to have some guys step up off the bench. So that's I'm feeling good about that win. We got American next. We're 3-3. We haven't been above 500 yet. So this could be a key win. We got Gardner Webb, which could be surprising, I think, even though we got him at home. I'd like to keep going and get some wins here because Texas A&M CC. Look at that, 5 wins for them. Not bad. Maybe I shouldn't feel too bad about that loss. I'm sure they're a program that's probably playing teams that are much bigger than them. So here's American. Come on, no upsets here. 90-72. That gets us above 500. Several guys here double digits in points, including Baxter, who has it looked like he'd been backing off a little bit in last few games. Defensively, we really out-rebounded them. Did a good job in turnovers. Another 50+% shooting game. Landrum, player of the game, 11 points, 7 rebounds. Eschmeyer looked pretty decent scoring-wise. Baxter, Johnson. The only really disappointment might have been Hanson, but then Brown off the bench, 16 points. I'm gonna stay with it as long as we're winning, kind of. But he's really, he's really playing well. And I don't know how much it really matters if you've got a guy whose attitude with the team and with you is good, I think it's I've always found in this game that it's really good to have good bench play. Sometimes you got 1 or 2 players who can come in and kind of take over. It's really better than having their numbers as a starter, if that makes sense. So we got Buffalo coming up. I'm going to look at the standings real quick. We're 4-3 in conference. That puts us about a little bit above middle. North Texas and Marshall struggling. Old Dominion. Those are 3 of the biggest programs. I guess when you're looking at current seasons, these are probably 3 of the biggest programs as far as I know. They were when I started playing in this playthrough in this conference with UAB way back several seasons ago. But Western Kentucky and Florida International, those guys have probably taken over as 2 of the bigger programs now. And I wanted to look at the net just to see where we are with that. So I guess it's based on what's it going to be based on? Is higher points better, or is it lower points better? Let me just see what it shows here. So you go to the insights, and again, this is something I think would be fixed if you have this issue. If you want to try it in the compatibility mode, I think it's maybe something to do with the programming language of this game and the way Windows 10 handles it. But you look at the team sheet under Insights, and it'll tell you. So, unfortunately, in Quadrant 1, we've had 2 games that we're matched up with, and we've lost them both. So that's hurting us. And we've had 1 loss here in Quadrant 3, and it was a home loss, so that's pretty tough. So I guess it's going to be based on the lower the score, maybe. So like if we looked at Duke, yeah, well, that's just their net ranking, but what is their net score? That's just the ranking. I'm sorry. So it doesn't really give you, I guess, a score necessarily. It's maybe just a ranking. All right, let's keep going. I want to get through 4 more games. Let's try to do it here. I don't know where this Gardner Webb team's gonna stack up in that either, but they've got a good record, 5-3. Um, Buffalo is not in a bad basketball conference either for the most part. So they're the third game we got coming up. It'd be nice to win out, finish with 8 wins. That 5-win cushion going into the conference would be nice. Yeah, once again, that menu's not there. And sometimes that happens. There's some little quirks I think with the, and I think it's just maybe the programming language that was used. But hey, look at this, another win, 84-79. Virginia Commonwealth, their icons are missing. Wow, I'm gonna have to look at that a little bit further. This was a close game. We out rebounded them. Turnovers were high for both teams, but we won that battle. We probably sneaked a win in here. We just had the turnovers may have helped, and the rebounds may have helped us get several more attempts, and that's how we won it. Eschmeyer 12 points, Landrum, Shaq off the bench with 19 points. He was player of the game. That's never happened, I don't think, in this guy's um, career. So that's cool again to have at least two fairly solid players off the bench is good. Johnson put in 39 minutes. It went to OT. That's why we won this game in OT. Oh man, I wasn't aware of that. That's a little disappointing, but at least we came away with the win. Baxter, 8 points, 3.5 rebounds. I hope he gets a little bit better as the season goes on. He was good off the bench last year at times. I think he has the potential to be like a double-digit scorer fairly regularly, but we'll just have to see if he improves a little bit. Still being a sophomore, he's got room to grow with, and especially with playing time. We've got an above-average assistant when it comes to player development and running practice. I'm hoping that helps out too. So Jacksonville State at home. I think the remaining games are going to be at home. So it would be really nice to keep winning here. 73-48, big win. Baxter, 12 points. Brown, 18 points. I'm just here for the wins. I don't care how I get them at this point. But that was a big defensive performance here. Held them to 30% shooting. Once again, we're over 50%. Out-rebounded them pretty comfortably, close in turnovers. Johnson, decent game. His scoring has gone down, though, this year. I know the average is up there, but I think that's because he had that 128-point game early in the season. His scoring's down, but his assists are up. And let's see if his turnovers are down. That would be even better. No, they're not. They're actually up. But outside of him, Baxter, one of his better games this year. Hansen, decent, but his shooting has been a little disappointing. 43%. I guess I can live with that, but he's had a few games where he's just been really off. Keith Brown, player of the game, 10 times for him in his career, and he's got 11 points. He's definitely going to have more points than Eschmeyer, but Eschmeyer doing pretty decent again in rebounds. He had 7+ rebounds last season. He's one of those guys who when I took over, he was a freshman. He had a lot of potential, and I think he just, for whatever reason, he just never lived up to that potential, and wasn't the dominating force I was hoping he would be. All right, so we're coming down with 2 more games left, and it's going to be a while before we can get to conference schedule, but we won't get that far in. But I'm hoping we'll finish these next 2 games. See what we got on. So Elon going to be our last. Wow. They're going to be tough. Don't be surprised by that one. Elon, 6-3. I don't think they're going to be too easy. And we're going to have to go into next week to play that last game. So I'd like to get this Buffalo win. That would be huge. 7 wins coming out of non-conference. And then hope like crazy that we have another good season in conference. Double digits in wins anyway, maybe 10. That would be great. It's weird that it's doing that, and it might do that little glitch where it goes back to that screen. Yeah, weird. So that's their 7th win, easy over Buffalo. 21 points for Johnson, so he's back in scoring. Hanson really he's kind of calmed down a little bit there. Western Kentucky, hey, they beat Memphis. That's a pretty big upset. Memphis ranked 21st. That's kind of win that we need eventually, but we're probably a year or two, hopefully, behind them, behind Western Kentucky, and having that kind of luck or having that kind of performance. This is a good one. We really ran away with it in the second half. Defensively, we were sound. 56% shooting. That was mainly Johnson, who had a great game. But free throws have looked better this year. Rebounds, 37-23. Turnovers, close. Mainly Johnson leading the way there. Once again, Brown off the bench. Even Wilcox, he's been a surprise. He's somebody. He's a power forward, I believe. I'm hoping his relationships get a little bit better for what it's worth, but he was a freshman recruit that just didn't pan out. Maybe he's going to be better than I'm thinking in the long run. Hanson, though, 7 rebounds, pretty good for a guard there. Decent play up and down the line in different categories, except for maybe for Baxter. He didn't have a great performance. So one more game, and it's going to take us to next week. And I don't know about this one. They lost another game. Elon did. Could be a surprise. And I want to check our standings before we go. See if we got a little bit better there in the net rating with those wins. We're still not getting the first quadrant wins, and that's gonna hurt us. And we probably won't have any first quadrant wins or teams on the remaining schedule. I wouldn't think too many of, if any, of these Conference USA teams are going to be ranked in that quadrant. So we got Old Dominion scouted to beat us. This could be another. Well, we're scouted to beat Florida Atlantic. That could be another tell in terms of what kind of team we have. Last year, for what it's worth, we were scouted to beat a lot of teams. It seemed like at times just about every team that we were going up against, we were scouted to beat. And that shows you how huge that Western Kentucky win was against Memphis. They're 9-2 and ranked 20th. I don't know what their record's going to be, but that's definitely putting them tops in this conference, I would think, if they've got a decent record. All right, so here we go. Last game of the year. Or last game of the episode. Look at that, man. Texas A&M CC knocks off Western Kentucky on the road. So I guess I can't feel too bad about that. And we end up beating Elon 85-73. Pretty confident win there. Johnson with 20 points. He's probably going to be player of the game. Let's see. Defensively, we really out-rebounded them. Turnovers, we struggled there, but again, that was Johnson. 20 points and 5 turnovers. Not a lot of assists, but I guess that's decent. Baxter had a good game. Off the bench, Brown, Jack, Wilcox, again, scoring. He's a good inside shooter, it looks like. 50-plus shooting percentage. So we turned it around after losing those first 2 games. I know, though, looking at the standings, we're going to have a good record. Actually tied with the Rice for the best record, but that net is not too great. I think it's surprising to me, though. Western Kentucky is not that great in terms of their net. If you look at insights for them, their team sheet, I mean, they had Memphis and Toledo. Yeah, I mean, they've had some losses at Texas A&M. Dang, they were just spoiling everybody's fun. But they had 2 quadrant 1 games, whereas we had not many. But Rice, surprisingly, they're looking pretty good. I mean, how good is this team going to be? You got to get back to the insights, look at them from there. And then team sheet for them. I'm not sure how, but they had 2 decent opponents in that quadrant 1, lost them both. I don't know. It's surprising that their net is ranked so high. Maybe it was the way wins. I just don't know. That's something I'm going to have to get used to, I think, before I really see how things are going there. But a decent start. We definitely turned it around. We only had the 3 away games, so it's not going to tell us anything like we knew last year going into the conference how well we're going to be. But I'm surprised Old Dominion's ranked ahead of us because they've had a rough start of it. But it's nice to be in this new version finally. I'm enjoying it. I'm going to take a look. Maybe there's an update I need to do to fix those graphics. But next episode, we'll get through hopefully half of the conference schedule, and we'll really really see anyway what kind of team we're going to have. Luckily, with an 8-3 record, we can go 7-11 and finish above 500 regular season anyway. I obviously don't want to do that, but 9 wins even in conference would give us 17. Would meet some goals, maybe give us a couple wins in the tournament finally, and we might get the NIT again. But who knows? But as always, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you next episode.